Diamondbacks and Orioles, game 2 of 3. Time now for our Just for Men Mustache and Beard Play It Like a Champ profile. We look to the former Rochester Red Wing, current batting coach for the Arizona Diamondbacks, Don Baylor. You see his career notes on the right. The American League Most Valuable Player in '79, Manager of the Year. But in 1970, in my hometown of Rochester, New York, he was the Minor League Player of the Year with the Rochester Red Wings, who were the AAA affiliate of the Baltimore Orioles. He came back because they didn't have room for him in the big club in '71, and they won the International League and then the Junior World Series, as they like to call it. So, as we go to a break, it's story time. As we take a trip down memory lane and chronicle what many people say is one of the greatest minor league teams ever assembled. We'll talk to Don Baylor and sort of my love-hate relationship with the Orioles, who always robbed my Red Wings of the best players, like Don. Welcome back to Diamondbacks Live. It is story time. As I said, I'm Todd Walsh. We'll get back to Chase Field in just a second. As I've told you many times over the years, I'm from Rochester, New York, which is a minor league baseball town. And when I was there in the late 60s, the 70s, and the early 80s, the minor league team there, the Rochester Red Wings, were the AAA affiliate of the Baltimore Orioles. And at the time, it was the most celebrated arrangement, I think, in all of Major League Baseball. And for me, a tip of the hat to my parents, because every Christmas back in Rochester, in my stocking, I would get that envelope and a book of tickets, season tickets, which allowed me to go to 50 or 60 games a year. As you can see, I've saved a few things. By the way, did you know that Frank Robinson cut his managerial teeth with the Red Wings back in 1978? It's interesting when you look at a minor league baseball team. If you've ever been around a minor league team, you know that the lifeblood of the organization is the summer promotional calendar. In Rochester, it was filled every night. Beer night by Genesee, the local brewery. Banana split night from Bill Gray's, one of the local hamburger stands there. But really, for baseball fans, it was all about the stars that would come out. Hank Aaron would be there every couple of years. Bob Feller was a yearly staple. Max Patkin, the clown prince of baseball, there every single summer. For baseball purists, though, the day that you would circle on your calendar was this one. It was the exhibition game. Back in the day, the Major League affiliate would always play on an off day their AAA team. They would find a way to make it happen, and for autograph collectors like myself, it was a bonanza. And as you can see, the goal was to get guys in the Red Wings who you thought would make it to the majors. Like, remember Wayne Krenchicki? Probably not, because he didn't. Mike Boddicker, on the other hand, well, he did. Now, if you really knew the lay of the land and you knew what was going on, you knew that the starters would all leave after the third inning. They'd take the back exit to the stadium so you could stalk guys like Jim Palmer, Denny Martinez, the late Mike Flanagan. How about Dan Graham, who I've now found out is from Ray, Arizona. No minor league story is complete without guys like Eddie Murray on the landscape. He had a cup of coffee with the Red Wings and then went on his way, wound up in Cooperstown in the Hall of Fame. Or there are always stories like this. Mark Fidrich trying to resurrect his career. I'll never forget when he came through with Pawtucket. He must have signed 100 of these Sports Illustrated covers. I miss him, the late, great Mark Fidrich. Great history in Rochester. They played the longest pro baseball game ever. I wasn't there. It was on the road in Pawtucket again. But I did listen until 4:50 in the morning on the radio. And then there's the story of the autograph that got away. I stalked this guy for an entire summer in 1981. I thought I had time. Cal Ripken Jr. got called up in August. He never came back. But for our purposes, we're here to celebrate maybe one of the greatest minor league teams ever assembled, the 1971 Rochester Red Wings. They still talk about them back there. They won the International League, the Governor's Cup, and then they played in what was called the Junior World Series. It was against the American Association's Denver Zephyrs, I believe. Bobby Grich was called up before Game 5. He was the Player of the Year, which left the series and the championship on the broad shoulders of this guy right here. You know, Don Baylor. Well, Don, it is story time here, and I got to say this is fascinating. You have a 19-year career, a most valuable player, an all-star, manager of the year, yet you and I are sitting here, thank you, by the way, and talking about the 1971 Rochester Red Wings, and that's because the Orioles are here in town, and obviously there's that great affiliation. You're one of the best players ever. What do you remember about that team? Last team standing, you win the whole thing, the Junior World Series, and the whole kit and caboodle.
Well, just how close we were as a team.
Really?
You know, that's what the Orioles were all about. Even in the minor leagues, the major league club, it just kind of filtered down to the minor league affiliates, because they had won in '69, '70, and on the verge of just running away with it in '71. And so we knew if we were going to have to get to the big leagues, we were going to have to play that kind of caliber of baseball in the minor leagues.
Well, let's get to the Oriole family and the Oriole way. I mean, this was as close to a dynasty, I think, in the late 60s and early 70s as you can think of. The Orioles were right there, and that was the organization that brought you into the fray, didn't they?
Well, they taught me how to play the game. Once you work your way through the minor leagues, Joe Altobelli, Cal Ripken Sr., those are the two mentors that I had coming up. And they taught you how to play the game. They taught you how to respect the game. So once you got a chance to play for Earl Weaver, you didn't deviate from that one bit. You better know where the cutoff man is. You better know all the signs. It was none of that, we're going to let it go until the next day or the next week. You not get chastised, but he'd call you down in there in that corner and talk to you about it.
I want to throw a quote at you. This is from the great Gannett columnist and also from the Rochester Times Union, Bob Matthews, who covered that 71 team. He wrote recently about you and Bobby Grich, who came back because there was no room for you in Baltimore. He said, one of the most impressive things about Baylor and Grich is how competitive they were. They knew they should be with the Orioles, but I never saw them sulk or give anything less than 100%. They wanted to win every game. Their hustle and enthusiasm lifted their teammates, several of whom had the best seasons of their careers. And I don't want to say this as an indictment, but Don, that's old school because you don't see that across the board anymore, frankly.
Oh, that's how I played, and that's how I managed. You manage and play for that particular day. If you're going to be a leader, it's not only when you get 3 hits. It's the days that you go 0 for 4 or 0 for 5 and you're struggling. You have to be able to go and pat somebody else on the back and say, nice game, or, and that's kind of always been my reputation or whatever, and I've stayed with it.
That 71 team, though, lives with you, doesn't it, forever? I imagine it does. It feels like it does.
Oh, it does. Every time I get a chance to go into Rochester, I went in for induction not too long ago. And just, Silver Stadium, that's a part of it, One of my best friends now is managing the Rochester Red Wings, Gene Glenn, and I told him, you'll have fun there in Rochester. They're baseball people, and